This conference will now be recorded.
Big five.
Big man on campus. Yeah.
Big five. New conference.
Those not me, it's my A few more years, kids show. And then my time is way more.
You can stop tomorrow.
Well, you're used to me being on time, and now I can't find my agenda.
You get an extra copy.
I couldn't get my computer on, so there you go. No, I don't. I have some back.
Anything new things on the town?
Thanks, Santa Rosa.
So big.
What kind is it?
I have no idea.
Okay, now that I have an agenda, let's start. Let's call this North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council meeting to order. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. There it is. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Agenda item 1 is it's hopefully a view of the acceptance of the meeting agenda. Let's get that one first. Any additions or corrections to the agenda? Everybody's good with it. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the meeting agenda. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 2 is the approval of the minutes for the lead planning agency and the air quality NFRMPO minutes of October 5, 2023. Hopefully you've had the opportunity to look those minutes over. Any additions or corrections to those minutes, please? If not, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as accepted.
Second.
A motion by Johnny, second by Liz. I'm done with formalities. This one and this one.
That's fine, you're good.
Councilor Olson, Mayor Pro Tem Hyde, to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. All right, let's open our lead planning agency for the air quality. I forgot public comment. I sure did. Anyone in the public wish to comment? We'll give you 2 minutes to speak what's on your mind. Any public comment this evening? Seeing no public comment, we will move on to the lead planning agency for air quality.
I have public comment. I was signed up.
Yeah.
Mr. Casey, hello. I'm sorry, Mr. Casey, I did not see on yon. Please, your comments, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. Greetings, respected members of the Northern Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization. My name is Rick Casey, and I'd like to make a public comment that's relevant to your mission. This is my first time attending one of your meetings, and I was pleased to find out about your organization, and I hope to contribute to it constructively as a concerned citizen. I'll plan to contact your staff for more detailed questions, but I want to make this public statement. I don't think we're doing enough about our ozone pollution problem. The Front Range has been out of ozone compliance since 2004, and in 2021, our air quality was downgraded from serious to severe. And yet the state agencies are not developing an effective plan. I think it's up to local communities to start to develop them. So I'm going to be asking your staff if you have a plan for air quality monitoring in northern Colorado. From what I've seen on the website, there doesn't appear to be one. There's an acknowledgement of an ozone problem, but that's about it. So as a concerned citizen, I'm going to follow up with staff, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. Any additional public comment, please? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to reports. Number 3 is the Air Pollution Control Division report. That is a handout and in your packet. Number 4 is the Regional Air Quality Council, the RAC. That is that's Mr. Silverstein's with us. Mike, good evening, sir.
Yes, hello. Can you see me and hear me okay?
We can hear you, and if you have a slideshow up, we can see that great.
Oh, great. Yes, I provided the slideshow a few days ago, so it's just a few slides, and thank you for the opportunity to present this evening to the North Front Range MPO Council. I would like to focus the points this evening on our lawn and garden electrification, equipment electrification initiatives. And so we could go to the next slide. Providing an update to our incentive efforts. The RAC distributes quite a bit of money to our Front Range non-attainment area in the form of incentive dollars that we are able to raise from various resources and contributors to electrify lawn and garden equipment. And so here's just a listing of the work we've done over this past year and our look forward into 2024. So we have significant dollars that we've push to government and public entities. About $2 million is our budget. And I've been told today, much of it is already allocated. So if you are a local government that has not applied to our program, please get that application in because our $2 million is almost called for. So we hope to gain additional resources to restock that pot. Our commercial program, this is a new program that we're devoting new dollars to help commercial operators with their lawn and garden electrification efforts. So grant programs to commercial operators in our non-attainment area with focus in the Weld County area especially for one of our funding sources. Our residential program, again, our mow down pollution program for residents to go electric with their lawn and garden equipment. We're continuing that voucher program as well. Just like to announce that the state has approved a 30% point of sale instant discount from participating retailers in our non-attainment area for electric lawn and garden equipment. And that will begin in 2024. It's a 3-year program. And certain pieces of equipment are eligible. If you go shopping and you buy an electric lawnmower, for example, just instantly they deduct 30% off the final price. And then, as I mentioned, our fundraising efforts will continue to focus on increasing these dollars and continuing these programs over the long term so that we can continue to offer these incentives. And of course, we take money from all comers, so corporate and private contributions, local, state, and federal grants. Next slide. And as I briefed the council on before, the RAC has developed a regulatory proposal that is now under consideration by the Air Quality Control Commission. And we've had a long process, about a 2-year stakeholder process to gain good information and come up with what we believe is a reasonable approach in reducing emissions from gasoline-powered lawn and garden equipment. So we have a sales strategy that is proposed that would prohibit the sale of small gas-powered equipment, the push and handheld equipment in the non-attainment area beginning in 2025, and a in-use strategy proposal, which first starts with government, not using gas-powered equipment, the same small push and handheld equipment beginning in 2025 in the summer months, and then extending that prohibition to commercial operators in 2026. And as I mentioned, it's in front of the Air Quality Control Commission. There's numerous parties to their public hearing process, and they are slated to consider this in December. Next slide, please. And so just this slide just really says what our regulatory proposal is not. And it really gets to the issue of, what we're targeting here. We're really targeting the use of gas-powered equipment for that ornamental urban lawn and garden care. So we know that there is comparable electric equipment that can take the place and do the job of gas-powered equipment that is highly polluting. And so these items here indicate what would be exempted from our rule, for lack of a better phrase. So it's really, we're not looking at the large riding equipment, the tractors, or the largest push-powered commercial equipment at this time. We're looking at the sales program. It's not statewide. It's focused on the non-attainment area only, and the use strategies as well. The sales and seasonal use strategies are not intended to apply to first responders, emergency activities, storm cleanup, forest, grassland management, riparian management, fire hazard reduction, all those things that require quick action and long-term action by agencies and citizens as well. And so those are not subject to our proposal. And so the rest of our list here just provides some additional information, and the restrictions on residential use of existing equipment is not part of our proposal. It really focuses on commercial equipment, the large equipment, and the heavily used equipment, whether it's in government or commercial operators. Next slide, please. This is a side-by-side. The state has also proposed a competing proposal to the RAC's proposal. It is slightly different in some ways and dramatically different in others. They have a statewide proposal for the state government application in the summer months. We have it just for the non-attainment area. That's our jurisdiction for the Regional Air Quality Council. But the state has proposed all state agencies stop using gas-powered equipment in the summer months. The engine size restriction, we're at 10 horsepower or less. We feel that that captures the significant population of small equipment. The state has a 25 horsepower cutoff, and that's a difference. And then the sales prohibition, the state does not have a sales prohibition. The RAC has proposed that. State government agencies go first in both proposals. Local government restrictions in the RAC's proposal, it's in June of 2025. And in the state's proposal, they go in 2026 from a use restriction. And then the state has no restrictions on the remaining agencies like federal government agencies, colleges and universities, residential use restrictions. We don't have that either. School districts, water districts, you can see the list here, subject to the proposal from the RAC. And I believe this is my last slide, unless there might be one more. Oh, no, we have one more. It's always the funding slide. We're hoping that we can raise significant monies for our incentive programs. These monies we gain and we push right back into our communities, to companies, to governments. And so this is our proposal that we have. We're looking for help from the state legislature, from businesses, from local governments, state agencies, wherever we can raise money so that we can hit these targets to really better fund our commercial program, our public sector program, and our residential program. And you can see the details here in this slide. And that should be the last slide. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Questions for Mr. Silverstein, please. Mike, I have a couple of questions out of curiosity. It's just small engine lawn and garden equipment, correct? Numerous small engines used in agricultural operations. I want to make sure we're not punishing.
No, it is that small engine under 10 horsepower, and it's our intention that agriculture activities would not be covered in this as well.
Okay.
And that there is it's my understanding that there is a prohibition on state regulating agriculture activities in the first place, unless there's very, very unique circumstances. So we don't believe that our proposal would affect ag activities.
Curious about enforcement mechanisms. How are you going to enforce? Will there be fines imposed? Who will handle enforcement?
Yes, if this is adopted, it becomes a state regulation. The Air Pollution Control Division would be the implementing agency, and it would really be up to them on how they enforce it. The RAC envisions what we call soft enforcement, that there's record keeping and reporting of the use of the gas-powered equipment. We're not interested in finding out from every commercial operator, every local government, what they do and when they do it throughout the summer months, only if there is the use of gas equipment. So we'd like to know if gas equipment is used and under what circumstances, so that we can then focus our funding efforts on helping those groups go electric to better comply. We're assuming that we're not going to get strong compliance in the first year, the second year. We hope for a 50% compliance rate, just because we know there's electric equipment out there already, that we know that local government, state agencies have budgets that when they turn over equipment, they will need to go electric in this group. But we're not looking at permits, fines, inspections. That's not the vision of this regulation proposal.
Okay. Other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Number 5 is the North NFRMPO Air Quality Program updates. That is Dina, and you want to do a quick introduction of Dina, please.
Yes, please. This is really timely because Mike just went through talking about the lawn and garden equipment. We have 2 things in front of you tonight. Dina is going to be talking about sort of what's been going on from the NPO perspective. So there is a memo. This is all in your handouts. And then also last month we talked about, because the SIP is up for approval in December for the rulemaking, if you and North Range NPO wanted to become a party to that, I don't think there was any support at the last council meeting to do that. However, we do think it's appropriate to send a letter talking about that. So that letter is also in your packet, and it will touch on a couple of different areas: the motor vehicle emission budgets, our ozone contributions, and then also the lawn and garden equipment. So Dina's going to go over all of that, starting with the update on the report. Sorry, I'm getting you all confused, Alex. There you go. Starting with that, Dina, go ahead.
Good evening. So just going through the report really quick, there were several air quality related meetings and events of interest that were highlighted in your report. The Commission, Air Quality Control Commission, adopted rules related to low emission vehicles and zero emission vehicles, as well as a rule addressing greenhouse gas control requirements for 18 industrial facilities in the state. There were a number of other activities going a little bit more deeply into the Commission's action on low emission vehicles and zero emission vehicles. They just built upon some of the requirements they'd already adopted. They were based on California rules, incorporating those rules specifically. And so they just kind of expand the requirements in terms of the vehicles that must be sold or made available here in Colorado, increasing requirements up to 82% in 2032. So they're going quite a bit further out there. Regarding the ozone SIP and associated regulations that kind of Mike was just alluding to, that rulemaking, that formal process has kicked off and is set for hearing here in December. There are a number of parties to both the ozone SIP and its associated rulemaking or regulations, as well as the separate action they're going to be taking on the proposed Regulation 29, which is related to the lawn and garden equipment that Mike just went through. So there are different parties to both, but I will highlight that both the RAC and Weld County are parties to both of those rulemakings. At the RAC board meeting, EPA presented information on how they approach reviewing and approving SIPs. There was a discussion about transportation conformity and whether or not the funding for projects that were already kind of in the queue would be, if funding potentially could be stopped upon some non-attainment designation, or not non-attainment designation, but some disapproval of the conformity element of the SIP or any other element. And I believe the RAC did receive back some answers that give a little bit more comfort. So it seems to be specific to just stopping funding for these projects only if a conformity, that portion of the SIP is disapproved. So that was good. Other highlights that are of interest: EPA made a final determination in terms of, well, I'm just going to go into a final determination that really triggers the requirement for the use of reformulated gasoline during summer months in the non-attainment area, such that that should kick in this next summer. So plan on that. EPA in Colorado will continue to resolve issues in that EPA had disapproved elements of previously submitted ozone SIPs, and recently the Colorado requested and EPA has agreed to stay that disapproval, which kind of just puts things on hold and gives them more time to kind of come to resolution. EPA also stayed the good neighbor rule, if anybody's been tracking that. And what that does is it addresses transport. So pollution, ozone precursors coming from other states were shown to impact certain non-attainment areas. Colorado was one of those. And so they put out this good neighbor rule that required certain sources in other states to implement certain controls to help their impact on non-attainment areas. The reason I'm calling this out is because EPA has stayed that rule and such that the benefits that we expected to see from sources that are, say, upwind are now going to be delayed. So we can't count on those reductions anytime soon. And kind of related to that as well, BLM announced intentions to undergo a programmatic environmental impact assessment of oil and gas operations in the Gulf of Mexico, which there's been some showing of weather patterns that those emissions can come up and can impact Colorado. So again, we're looking for benefits that are coming from outside of Colorado and how they might impact our monitors. So there's a lot going on in terms of what's locally adopted reduction strategies as well as those that are happening nationally. So moving on to next steps, we talked about the ozone SIP, and Suzette just did a great introduction here. So we did a draft letter on the chance that you decided that you might want to submit comments. Comments would be due to the Air Quality Control Commission related to their ozone SIP and the separate lawn and garden equipment rulemaking proposal. Those comments would be due November 28th. And so in order to submit those on time, we thought we'd have a draft so that you could consider those comments. And again, whether or not you wanted to submit them at all, if these were on the mark, or if you wanted to somehow change those. Did you want to walk through those comments?
Yeah, Dina, hold on just a second. Maybe I can help walk through some of this. Some of the things in here are not specifically what's in the SIP, but I think for some of you that may remember this, we went through a SIP approval at one point, and we had a party that came in and said, we think we should lower motor vehicle emissions budgets by 25%. There were two commissioners at that time that entertained that without any of the work, any of the public process, and it created quite a problem for us, to be quite frank. We had to do a late party status. I mean, it was just a lot of work and a lot of jumping through hoops. Air Quality Control Commission said they would fix that. They haven't yet. So some of what's in here is, in the letter, is saying, if that kind of stuff happens, we really hope that you don't entertain it, first of all. And if you do entertain it, we really are asking for the amount of time it would take for us to get on board, respond, get back in front of the council, that sort of thing. So that's part of what's in this letter. It's not necessarily items in the SIP, but the process for the SIP. So that's sort of the first part, going off of that. And then Dina, do you want to talk about motor vehicle emission budgets and then the ozone contributions and then the lawn and garden piece?
Sure. So again, in talking to Suzette, there's been analysis on the the NFRMPO's behalf to verify that they can meet the currently proposed motor vehicle budgets. But out of that sense of caution from what happened last time during the rulemaking, we added a comment that basically says, hey, we think we can comply with them now. However, should anyone propose a alternative lower value, we would like the time to analyze it to understand the impacts to, the projects that you guys already are planning on. And so it's really just asking for the time, sufficient time to analyze that should that happen. So again, there's nobody at this point that I'm aware of that has proposed lower motor vehicle emission budgets than what the division currently has. However, because of the past, because what's happened in the past, we're just being a little proactive here. Are there any questions on that?
Questions from council? No, thank you, Nina. Please continue.
Okay. Then related to ozone contributions, we just wanted to kind of call out, kind of the content of what, you guys already had submitted to EPA in a letter. Just wanted to highlight for the Air Quality Control Commission's benefit that, you have these concerns and these questions about, we're focusing this ozone SIP effort all on Colorado's, locally grown man-made emissions, which I understand why we have to do that. But at some point, we're asking, how does the larger contributions that's coming from, a multitude of different sources, but all of which are outside of Colorado's authority and ability to address, at what point do we start, looking and addressing that? So it really calls out the fact that you submitted that letter and asked that question.
Does that make sense?
Okay. And then with regards to lawn and garden equipment, we took a stab at some of the potential comments. I understand there's a lot of different opinions here, so we wanted to be very sensitive to that, but just really say, hey, we support your effort at addressing lawn and garden equipment. We think it's important. At the same time, we have some questions about how exactly it applies. To which government entities does it apply? And the answers really vary based on which proposal you're looking at, the divisions versus the RACs. But maybe suggesting that, if they're calling out governmental entities, could they give us like a concrete list? Because I think there are a number of, state government entities and, county governments that are, proactively doing things here. I think a lot of them are, but maybe all to different extents. And maybe there's a couple of, smaller local governments that aren't yet. I don't know. But regardless, could you call out specifically who it applies to? And then secondly, spend a little bit more time explaining how does this third party contractor that's working for these, these government entities, how does that get pulled in? And then when they get pulled in, meaning being subject to these requirements, then who's on the hook for complying and verifying compliance with it? Is it the contractor, or is it the state government that contracted with that third party to provide those services? And I think just asking for some clarification around that might make some sense. In addition to that, we asked a little bit about the sales prohibition. Again, just asking who the implementing agency would be, how it would be implemented, how will compliance be determined, how non-compliance would be handled. So understanding that maybe there are some smaller government entities that may not, or other entities that may not be fully aware of the requirements. How are they going to be handled? Is there kind of some soft rollout? Is there some ability to phase in these requirements for maybe the early adopters go first and the other folks get a little bit more time? So it's really asking questions like that. So those were that was the gist of the comments that we put together in terms of lawn and garden equipment. But again, this was just a stab at what you might be interested in submitting, and if you are, then great. If not, ever you want to change things, we're definitely open to any and all of that. But this is just a place to allow you to start the conversation on whether or not you wanted to submit comments. So are there any other questions?
Questions for Dina, please? I'll kind of start spitballing. I very much appreciate your work on this letter. I am of the opinion that North Front Range does need to submit this letter and at least make our voice heard this way. I agree the party status is interesting, but I think that we should go on record and this letter is a fine representation of that. Other comments? Since it's due November 28th, since we won't have a meeting before that date, Suzanne, I would imagine I'm looking for a general head nod,
I would think so, yeah. We certainly need a general head nod.
just for me to be able to sign this and submit it on our behalf. Everybody good? Good? Good?
General head nod.
A general head nod.
Okay. I will take that as an affirmative general head nod. Dina, thank you. Anything additional from Dina?
Nope, I think that's it.
Okay,
Dina.
let's move on to the Metropolitan Planning Organization agenda under reports for purposes of roasting the outgoing Transportation Commissioner. Is that what it is? It's a roast? May we have both Director Paddock and said mentioned roasty come forward, please?
There's a lot of material.
All right, there's no mic, I'll just project.
You're projecting well.
Am I projecting well?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for having us and giving us an opportunity to recognize Kathleen. You know, this is a job that is a job that is not a paid job. It is a volunteer job for 4 years, and Kathleen and I started our jobs. Mine was paid, hers was volunteered, at the same time. And so I just wanted to say thank you. We were kind of learning our roles as we went together. So I really appreciated our calls every month, sometimes multiple times a month. But your advocacy for Northern Colorado and advocacy for I-25 is really, you never stopped, which was great. And I'm proud to say that, not only did we get 6, 7, and 8 accomplished under your tenure, but we also now have segment 5 funded as well, which is you should feel really proud of that. And I think you took, this group here, but you had a really big part to play in that. So traditionally, I'm going to read something first from the commission. Karen Stewart, this comes from all the TC members. So, dear Kathleen, on behalf of the colleagues of the Transportation Commission, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for your dedicated service to Colorado as part of the commission for the past 4 years. You serve the residents of your district and Colorado well. In all aspects of important and often complex policy, budget decisions, your knowledge, experience, and thoughtful deliberation benefited our decision making. Your personal commitment to sustainable transportation policies and mobility options that considered all Colorado residents resulted in significant improvements in transportation. You've always been approachable and responsive to the people in your district, and your attendance at many, many Northern Colorado meetings was always a given. You have been a steadfast supporter of the completion of the Express Lanes project and mobility hubs in Northern Colorado. As you drive Northern I-25 today, you can take pride in the part you play to accomplish this important transportation corridor that provides commuting options, reduces greenhouse gases, impacts, and accommodates transit. It was a pleasure working with you, Kathleen, and you were missed with appreciation, Karen Stewart. And that was from all the commissioners as well.
Very nice, thank you.
And traditionally, we always give our commissioners a photo of significant projects. So here is a picture of I-25, 402.
Thank you, so much.
It's a good picture at night. We're getting crafty of making transportation projects look pretty. Yeah, so very good. And I know Herman would like to say a few words.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so thanks, Heather. I just wanted to add in, typically when we have a commissioner that's leaving the commission, we have an opportunity at a commission meeting to recognize them publicly and thank them for their 4 years of volunteer work. And unfortunately, with our outgoing commissioners, we didn't have an opportunity to do that. So I appreciate Heather's leadership to make sure that our commissioners got the thank you, the public thank you that they deserve. I'll say in particular for Kathleen, and I think you all will smile and recognize that this is true when you hear it. One of the things that I think Kathleen was probably the most attentive commissioner at our workshops. Always there, didn't matter the topic, always there with a question, always there with a comment or a challenge that sometimes would irritate staff. But a good commissioner is asking those questions and challenging us and then making our work product better. And Kathleen did that on all of the topics that we would bring to her. So we felt like at headquarters, it would be wrong to have an opportunity to recognize Kathleen and her volunteer work for the commission and not have somebody from headquarters here. So we really appreciate the work that you did in working to volunteer to make Colorado transportation better. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Are there comments from council members? Anyone? Let me hop in there and say Kathleen is a fellow CDOT staff irritant. And you should wear that with pride, by the way. I have certainly appreciated your consistent voice for Northern Colorado. While you and I have not 100% agreed, thank God we haven't. We have always treated one another with respect, and we have worked on the best interest of the North Front Range NPO and the North I-25 area and all that we purview and see. So thank you so much for being such an advocate for transportation in Northern Colorado. I know that I, for one, will miss you in attendance at these meetings. Thanks for your work.
Great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that and really appreciate Heather and Herman and all of you making time in the meeting tonight and having this acknowledgement and your kind words. I really appreciate it. And it truly has been a great opportunity to serve and to participate in this. And you're right, we didn't always agree, but I think we were able to find common ground. And through finding common ground and having a conduit for the voices of Northern Colorado to speak and be part of the conversations at the Transportation Commission was such an important part for me. So I appreciate having that role. And I know that Commissioner Kelly will continue to do a great job, and I see him on the screen tonight. So it's a great handoff, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for this opportunity, and certainly a huge thank you to CDOT and all for this great work, and thank you to the full commission. So thank you.
Thank
and
you.
I love this. This would be awesome.
Agenda item 7 is report of the chair. I was just reminded by Mayor Mellon that I am behind schedule, so therefore the chair will keep his mouth closed. Number 8 is executive director report.
Well, I have a few things. So I just wanted to let everybody know that our Link NoCo Phase 2 was awarded to HDR, that contract. So we were going to be up and running with that second phase of that work. And then also the US 34 TMO and also a TDM component of that RFP has been released and it is due to close on December 1st. So that is out. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, and I know Paul Cochran is on the line, but we went out and asked everybody what months you could host for the North Range NPO for last year. And people were quick to respond. And the last thought we had was for LaSalle in June, and they can't do it in June. So we have a vacancy in June, and I didn't know if anybody wanted to swap with LaSalle potentially. They can't do June or July, or I don't, potentially we maybe could ask Heather if she could host, or we
Since CDOT left, I say CDOT doesn't.
or we could have a virtual meeting. I mean, those are our options. So I'm just throwing things out.
I don't know if I've seen the list of when.
Oh, I didn't bring it with me, but I'm just throwing that out there. We'll send that back out to all of you. But just an ask that we do need to get the June meeting covered in some way, shape, or form. So
I just don't know what month we have. June's not a bad month to have it.
yeah, I don't remember where Gurley fell. Sorry.
I don't either.
But I'm just throwing that back out there. So we've got a couple of options.
Yeah. Yeah, Weld County is your backstop, but please you don't want to have to go to Weld County and have barbecue twice in a year. But we are there if you need.
We can switch it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's other food there.
Okay, that's all I have for report.
Okay. Number 8, questions for Suzette, please. That's not for you. Number 8 is, number 9 rather, is the attack report that is written in your packet. Number 10 is mobility. Corey Schmidt, please. Corey, are you online?
No, he's here.
Oh, there you are, back. Okay, sorry. Such a demure guy, I missed you back there.
Making my annual appearance in person to council. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to give an update on the rollout of Right Now Co., otherwise known as the One Call, One Click Center. I'm Corey Schmidt, the Mobility Director here at the NPO. Just setting the stage, since I know there's been a lot of change in council members over the last couple of years. This all started all the way back in 2013 when Larimer County's strategic plan set a goal to evaluate transportation needs and challenges for older adults across Larimer County as the population was aging. This led to various assessments and pilots that Alex took a huge role in really shepherding and spearheading, which really culminated in a One Call, One Click Center being identified in the Larimer County Senior Transportation Implementation Plan. From the implementation plan showing that a One Call, One Click Center, a central resource for discovering transportation options in the region, would probably be best held at the NPO. In early 2020, this planning council approved $1.2 million to fund the expansion of the mobility program, and a program that was encompassing of the entire region in both Larimer and Weld counties. In 2022, since you all like me apparently, council approved an additional $600,000 for the continued operation of Ride Now Co. And those are both MMOF funds matched with Fort Collins Exchange funds. And as you can see, as of the end of August, we've expended just under half of the original allocation of funding. That's going to skyrocket over the coming months as we really dig into the engineering and build out phase of the third and final phase of the rollout of Ride Now Co. So Ride Now Co. was the brand that we gave to the One Call, One Click Center, and it has a slogan of connecting you in Northern Colorado. And I always like to lead off with this because I think it really kind of drives what this program is really all about. We want to improve individual mobility, especially for older adults and people with disabilities, as well as improving regional mobility through enhanced coordination and collaboration among public and private transportation providers, and especially more underserved areas of rural Larimer and Weld counties. The vision of Ride Now Co. is to eventually develop a coordinated system that schedules rides across multiple providers with seamless and accessible options for riders and users of the service. It is simple for people to find information about the transportation options. It has robust financial capabilities related to trip cost. It ensures accurate information for data-driven decisions. And it really empowers and enables not only providers to share trips, but also empowers riders with more options and a more cost-effective approach. So taking that Senior Transportation Implementation Plan, which is a mouthful, otherwise known as just the implementation plan, was a tall order, especially with the changing environment of the pandemic and what that meant for not just transportation, but also human service agencies as well. So we broke that out into 3 phases. In 2021, we launched the Ride Now Co. website and call center. Late last year, I think it went live like December 28th. We completed and launched the Trip Discovery tool. And then right now, which will be working into the first quarter of 2024, is that third and final trip scheduling phase. So we have a information assistance center that can be reached Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And that's meant to complement our website, which is a place that you can easily kind of sort through your options based upon what county you're in, what community you live in, whether you need wheelchair accessible transportation. We really wanted to make the website as accessible as possible. So there's a Spanish translation, there's a Google plugin that allows it to be translated into, I believe, 108 languages, as well as screen reader support and other things to really make it as easy to find your transportation options at your fingertips. But if not, we do have that call center support that has myself, Brooke, or Lisa able to kind of walk you through their transportation needs. The second phase was that trip planning and discovery tool, which is really one of the first deployments of something called GTFS Flex, which basically took the tools that allow you to plan trips on transit on like Google Maps and other apps, but expanded it to include demand response. So providers that only go point to point rather than following fixed routes, which allowed us to build a tool that not only included the transports, the Colts, the Greeley Evans Transits, but also Saint and Raft and 60 Plus Ride and some of the volunteer transportation providers. That system also includes the peak in Estes Park, RTD, and busting to really give you a comprehensive tool to help plan a point-to-point journey across not just the North Front Range, but also across the Front Range. The third phase, so those first two phases were really on the public-facing side. The third phase, which has been the most complex, but also I think really yields the most long-term opportunity for transformation for residents of Northern Colorado for finding easier transportation options, is the third phase. When we set out to roll out the One Call, One Click Center, the impression was that everyone, all the volunteer transportation providers were going to get on board one scheduling software. COVID happened, and the vendors realized that they like maintaining their client relationships. They want to schedule their own trips. They want to have that control, but they also did see the value in the coordination that technology could bring. So along came something called the Transactional Data Specification, or TDS, not to be confused with TDM. I live in those two acronyms lately. And what this does is allow these different software systems for scheduling communicate with one another seamlessly. And they expect that the TDS will be just as commonplace for transportation on the back end as GTFS was on the front end in the last 2 decades to really help coordinate systems and services. And the way that the TDS spec is designed is that we're building it for these 4 agencies and ourselves right now. So 60 Plus Ride in Weld County, Raft in the rural Berthoud area, and Saint in Fort Collins and Loveland. But the way the API works is that there's nothing stopping in the future Transport or really Evans Transit from kind of plugging in as well. And what this allows upon completion next year is for us to really take our call center to the next level. Right now, the level of service we can provide is give a phone number for a service if we think there'd be a good fit for that person. Once this is live, we'll be able to we'll be able to take that initial intake information if they meet those needs of those 4 providers and seamlessly send it over to their scheduler, so then they can kind of take the baton and call that client directly to get them scheduled, registered, and then hopefully taking trips quicker. Additionally, what this allows is those volunteer providers to communicate with one another, so they can, in practice, they can share client information, they can exchange trips with one another. We think in the initial term that's going to be very limited in scope, but it does provide the ability for more cross-regional, cross-jurisdictional human service transportation. Just wanted to quickly back up to show you some of the stats that we've collected at our call center since launching in 2021, which was in February 21 for assisting with COVID vaccine transportation, and then September 21 was when the full launch happened. As you can see, we climbed from 94 calls in 2021, and we're upwards approaching 230 10 months into 2023. Pretty even split in where those calls come from. So about 45% from Weld County, 43% from Larimer, and then those 12% are either didn't capture that data, Boulder County or Metro Denver. Sometimes we get some calls from Cheyenne and Wyoming, but I see that number and it shows that we've really done a great job spreading awareness of the Rhinoco program pretty equally across the region, as well as on the flip side, there are a lot of transportation needs that don't always have easy fixes. And also highlight the growth in website visits, essentially almost doubling, on pace to double for the year. So out of those 450 calls, these are some of the common gaps that we hear. Transportation between communities in the region is difficult, especially between Fort Collins and Loveland, Windsor into Greeley, Fort Collins and Loveland, as well as any of the kind of smaller surrounding communities into those regional centers. We hear a lot. I think the biggest single need we hear are people trying to get to Metro Denver and to the Anschutz campus specifically for medical appointments. If you're going to Anschutz, you're probably needing a very specialty level of service and care that you can't receive in Northern Colorado. And there's really no, outside of insurance providers or Medicaid, there's really no easy way to get there. Yeah, someone can technically say you can take Mustang to Union Station, get on the A line, and then get on the shuttle from there, but that's not always feasible for people that are needing to get the Anschutz for the services that they require. We hear that availability and affordability for transportation in rural areas of Larimer and Weld counties is an issue, although the new VIA mobility service is really making headwinds on the Weld County side. And we saw this month, the third month into that service, ridership doubled over September. So really on pace to be meeting a lot of needs as the word continues to spread. And then finally, the fourth big gap that we hear at our call center is affordable and reliable wheelchair accessible transportation. And that's region wide, especially after like dial a ride service hours or call a ride service hours in Greeley. It's a need that we hear time and time again at our call center. Then to wrap up, I just wanted to go through the list of deliverables that was in the January 2020 council packet of what the mobility program was going to accomplish, and just show kind of the progress that we've made on reaching those goals. As you can see, we're doing pretty good. I won't go one by one, but I think it was impressive to see, even with the uncertainties that the pandemic brought on, we may have had to delay the timeline a little bit, but everything has either been accomplished or is in progress of being accomplished. And the things that are highlighted yellow are those things that will be developed through the phase 3 TDS project, as far as really making those common reporting standards and customer service standards through the Ride No-Co program. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
You have a hand raised online, let's go.
Okay, Troy, please.
So I'm wondering why you're not referring calls to VIA.
We do refer calls to VIA when they do come in.
I can't hear you.
We do refer callers to VIA when they come in and they could be serviced by the program.
But they're not available on the website?
So they are available on the provider directory. If you search through the list of providers, on the trip discovery tool, since this is a demand response service that's door to door and not fixed route, and we were able to import the VIA GTFS data through the project with CDOT, that new service area is not located on the trip discovery tool yet, but will be as that project to update those feeds gets underway.
May I offer just one comment that I received from a veteran that used this tool that lives in Johnstown? He did not get referred to VIA, possibly because he lives in Johnstown but within Larimer County.
I was under the understanding that all of Johnstown, even the Larimer portion, is part of the VIA service.
Troy, I got to be honest, we actually dealt with that. That came to my level. I pushed down to Elizabeth, and Elizabeth connected with one of our formers now. The young lady you stole from us out of AAA. Not that I'm holding a grudge or anything, but yeah, I think we hammered that out. We got that fixed, didn't we, Elizabeth?
No, this was a separate situation, Scott. I know the situation you're talking about. This was a gentleman that lives in Thompson River Ranch, and I had to counsel him to call it VIA directly because he had shown me this website. I wasn't aware of it, and was said because he lived in Larimer County, he couldn't get VIA, but he lives within corporate Johnstown. He got the services from VIA. VIA supported him. There's just a slight disconnect yet, I think, somewhere.
Corey, that might be, we've had to hammer that out once anyway, and it sounds like a couple of times. Might be one of those kind of chinks in the armor of, while the contract is with Weld County, Johnstown, the Johnstown contract is with Weld County. Our contract is with all of Johnstown, regardless of county lines. So that might throw a chink in the armor of your software. I don't know, but something probably worth looking into.
Yeah, it was something within, he contacted NOCO, right, NOCO. So,
Okay.
but I got him squared away. It's not a problem, but there's still that, yeah, you're right. There's a chink in the armor.
Yeah, we're trying to, every opportunity we get to communicate about that, the VIA service, to mention that it's all of Johnstown that is eligible for that service. And I've saw by the data that they are really using the service and have been by far the most, participatory municipality so far.
We'll
only because we have been as a town really punching it because it is a super opportunity.
Any other questions for Corey, please?
I have a question.
Please.
Corey, great results. I mean, when graphs go like this,
Yeah.
it's pretty darn good. Do you do any advertising at all other than your webpage? Maybe you don't need to results like that, but how do you get the word out?
So really through our partners, through our mobility committees, through other NPO committees, getting it out. We have riders guides, which are in the back of the room right there. We haven't done any formal advertising and really rely on that word of mouth to get the word out there. But I think especially as we're getting close to having all the phases of implementation done, I think we can really tell even more kind of cohesive story about what Ride NOCO can do for people in the community. That maybe it does make more sense to start thinking about a more, above word of mouth marketing to let people know about the service.
Super, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Additional questions, please.
Yeah, I was speaking with a disabled resident of Fort Collins a couple weeks ago, and she's in an electric wheelchair about a week ago. She was stranded at a gas station late at night one night, and another time she was discharged from the hospital on a Sunday and couldn't get a ride. So I think that kind of falls under the shortcomings that you're still seeing the gaps for number 4 there. And I'm just wondering, what you see that looking like in the future.
Yeah, I think it's a tough nut to crack. And it's kind of very layered. I think providing wheelchair accessible transportation is expensive. There is heart and soul paratransit, but they have a limited fleet. We often hear about kind of delays or no-shows with people using dial-a-ride. And I think that's also kind of by virtue of Z-Trip being kind of one of the only catch-all wheelchair accessible transportation providers that serve the region. So I'm not sure if even they have the capacity to meet the demand for riders. I know Megan, their manager, and Caitlin Kelly is working very closely as a new dial-a-ride program manager to do right by the program. And I know that there's some changes underway. But it hurts our hearts too when we hear those stories. We were giving a presentation to Aspen Club in Loveland on Friday, and a person that lives in Loveland really sharing similar stories as well. And those are some of the hardest answers to give, and really require some of the most money and the most capacity to provide vehicles and operators that can serve that in an affordable way.
Anything else? Corey, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
Okay, number 11 is the Community Advisory Committee. That is written reports 12 and 13 and 14, Van Gogh, Q3 2023 TIP modifications, and CDOT inactives report are all written and in your packet. Let's move on to presentations. Number 15 is the CDOT Division of Transit and Rail update. Mr. DeRocher, is he on the line?
He is online, okay. And we're working on getting his presentation up and running. I think he said he was going to screen share.
Oh, okay.
Unless you have it up.
Yes. So Suzette, it says the organizer has to make me a presenter to share my screen. So there we go.
I think he's doing it this second.
Okay. Let's see, I'll put this in slideshow mode. All right. Okay, so are we seeing my screen?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Thank you for the introduction, Suzette. My name is Paul DeRocher. I'm the Director of Transit and Rail that is housed within the Office of Innovative Mobility at CDOT. Suzette and I had a conversation, I'd say a few weeks ago, and she shared with me some details of a busing trip that a council member had taken that didn't go as planned. So asked me to come here today and provide an update on how we're addressing some of the challenges that we're experiencing on busing. So that's kind of what I intend to do, and happy to answer some questions afterwards. As I mentioned, DTR, as you can see kind of highlighted here in green, is housed within the Office of Innovative Mobility at CDOT. The Division of Transit and Rail is the largest division within OIM. And so we have three primary business lines: passenger rail, planning and operations, and programs. And so you can kind of see we're a small but mighty team, but wanted to give you an outline of that. So some of our goals for FY 23 and 24, we are developing several mobility hubs, actually many of which are in the North Front Range area along I-25. We're working to increase bus rapid transit along state highways, increase the frequency of busing trips, and also ridership, as well as create a vision for Front Range passenger rail. So a lot of these things relate specifically to the North Front Range region. So some of the things that we've accomplished over the last fiscal year include bringing those mobility hubs online. So one at Centera, another one a little further down the highway in Berthoud, and another one along I-25 are supposed to be coming online just around the corner in spring of 2024. So we're looking forward to that. And some of the things that we're seeing on busing are very encouraging. We've seen ridership growth along most of our main lines, so that's on I-25 and I-70. And additionally, we're expanding our other routes, which include Outrider and Pegasus. Those are kind of more in the outlying regions of Colorado, as well as some of our seasonal service, which includes Snow Sting, busing to Broncos, and Estes Park. So working on getting those services going and being a benefit to Coloradans throughout the state. So some of our accomplishments there. So ridership on the North Line specifically. So we kind of took this as a moment in time, and beginning in 2021, of course, March 2020 was a huge reset for transit agencies everywhere. So this chart would look a lot different if we went further in time, but basically since the pandemic has I guess began, we've seen pretty steady growth year over year along the North Line. You can see a little bit of a dip there in 2023 in September, and we think there's a reason for that, which I'll get to in a moment. One of the things that we really benefited by at CDOT is the passage of SB 180. So Senate Bill 180 provided several funding streams, one of which was to expand busing service from this pre-existing service levels that you see over here in 2021. And so that top line is probably the one you're most interested in, that deals with busing North Line. So we went from essentially 6 daily round trips on the weekdays and 2 on the weekends to our ultimate goal over here in 2024, which is 12 to 13 daily round trips on the weekdays to 6 daily round trips on the weekend. So quite a significant jump from where we previously were in 2021 to where we are going in 2024. And I think this is really where you're most interested in hearing. So plans are great. I'm a planner myself. I'm a certified planner. And then things happen that you don't anticipate. And the thing that we're experiencing on Bustang right now, and in particular on the North Line, is that we are having a very difficult time keeping bus operators in seats. And so this area that over on the left-hand side of the screen, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor, but it is also outlined in a black box there, which shows our trip cancellations. And so these trip cancellations do occur for a variety of reasons, but looking into this further, the primary reasons we dropped trips in the September 23 timeframe was due to no operator available. And as I'm sure you've heard, this is something that a lot of transit agencies are dealing with. We were doing fine in the middle of the summer. Generally speaking, trip cancellations, the metric for this is in the industry referred to as service availability. And service availability percentages, we generally like to see about 98%. And so we were hitting those margins until September 23. And that's where we saw this big jump. So what are we doing about it? So in the immediate term, we can't necessarily increase the number of operators that we get in the door right away. We're certainly working on that. But in the interim term, the primary solution that we have available to us is to reduce trips. And so we began doing this about 2 or 3 weeks ago. After we kind of got this data back in and made some adjustments to 2 runs. One was the Route 603 and Route 611. So those were departing Fort Collins, leaving at 5:40 and 10:30 a.m. And then a northbound route, the 616, coming back to Fort Collins from Denver Union Station at 7:30. And part of the reason we needed to do this was because we understand that leaving passengers in either location, but especially if somebody's taken Bustang from Fort Collins or further points south into Denver, it's extremely difficult to get back. It's a unique aspect of operating intercity service. And so when somebody has experienced a trip cancellation and worst case scenario, they're not able to get back, of course, we're working with that individual to get them a refund on Bustang and trying to get them that information soon as possible so that they can make alternative arrangements. So in the medium term, some of these additional things that we're doing, here's some additional things we're doing to get operators in seats. So Bustang is a contracted service, so it's not directly operated by CDOT. We work with a vendor called Ace Express. They have actually been Bustang's operator for close to 10 years now. But they have begun increasing their hourly rate by $3 an hour. And it's actually going to result in the second highest starting wage for operators anywhere in the state. So they think that's going to result in getting more operators in their ranks and more specifically in the bus seats for the North Line. The contractor's also increasing their hiring budget. So their marketing, you may have even seen this on the Bustang website and other marketing venues where we communicate about Bustang, actually communicating jobs open there. And then our opportunities to receive Bustang trip cancellation information. So we do that through service alerts that you can sign up for on the ridebustang.com website, and actually distributing that information where passenger information display systems exist. And that's more or less specifically at Denver Union Station and some of the larger hubs along the route. And then, so working with the contractor to actually market some of their open positions, with using budget outside of what we have specifically for busting. That's something that CDOT has worked on. And then the last thing is, last two things are that the busting service provider contract is actually going to be up at the end of September in 2023. So we are working on developing an RFP for a new vendor, and we're putting all kinds of incentives for that operator to hit that 98% service delivery mark that I referenced earlier. And, of course, with any contract, there's also more sticks included with the carrots. And so some of those sticks include, what we call liquidated damages to the contractor if they're not meeting certain delivery standards. I've been in my position about 3 months, and unfortunately, we don't have a lot of those carrots and sticks woven into the existing contract, and so that's something we're going to rectify in this next RFP. And then lastly, one of the things that we're working on in CDOT, and this is probably more in the longer term range, is actually developing an operator training program in-house. We are working with our maintenance training academy, and the maintenance training academy is a real success story for CDOT, in which one of the areas where we were having a hard time filling positions as well was for snowplow operators. And so we developed an in-house snowplow operator training program in which somebody who's never operated a commercial vehicle can come in, earn their commercial driver's license, and get training on what the responsibilities are of that position, and then be placed into service in that role. And we think we can take some of the successes that we've found with that CDL program for snowplow operators and apply them to bus operators. It's going to take a little time to get that off the ground. There are differences in terms of the licensing required for bus operators. It requires a passenger endorsement, whereas a snowplow operator does not. But that's something that we're pretty excited about. And one of the things that I think is really exciting is the potential to expand that to potentially benefit other operators as well. As you may know and may have heard, this issue of operator retention and recruitment is not something that is specific to busting. It's something that has gone on and been exacerbated through the pandemic, but we continue to deal with it. And it's something that we're really working hard. I hope that impression is that is the impression that I've left you here with, that we're working hard to address it. But I guess with that, I really wanted to hear, from any council members on questions, concerns, any thoughts that you'd like to share.
Mayor Mellon, I believe you had your hand up.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Going back to your chart of missed trips. I'm having trouble understanding why the North Line. It's statistically unlikely that only the North Line would have been affected and the other three not. If it's the same contractor. So explain to me how that happened.
That's a great question. We had the same question for our contractor, and really what it comes down to is that it is the same contractor, but they don't necessarily come out of the same garage. The buses don't. And so there are different operators based out of different garages. So it's a fair question, but that is essentially what the result is. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Well, I guess in the new RFP, 10 years ago or so, we had, and maybe Suzette, you can help me with this. We had another program. It wasn't Bustang. It was some other sort of rideshare program, but there was also a concept of guaranteed return. If you got to your destination and for whatever reason your ride had to bail or something happened, the agency had a guaranteed return, where either was a cab or something got you back home, and you didn't have to struggle finding a ride home.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, refunding the fare is all well and good, but if you're sitting in
Yeah.
Union Station and the last bus of the day just got canceled, uh, uh, that's a real disincentive for using the service.
Absolutely. No, I 100% agree with you. You're talking about the Guaranteed Ride Home program, and that program, at least in the Denver metro area, is administered by Dr. Cog. I'm not 100% sure if there's a program similar to that at NFRMPO. I guess you'd probably all know better yourselves. But that is sort of a unique issue with Bustang, in that we pass through multiple MPOs and sometimes where there's not MPOs at all. So we don't necessarily have a program like that that's able to support it. However, I think it's a fantastic idea to pursue, and something that I can commit to looking into, because definitely that was one of the big things that we heard, talking directly with passengers who weren't able to get home. Unfortunately, there were a few cases like that, they needed some level of assurances that they were going to be able to be getting home. And so I think it's a great idea, and something I'm definitely committed to looking into further.
Thank you.
Additional questions for Mr. DeRocher, please?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Paul, thank you. I ride a lot, I'm a frequent rider on the North Line, and I think it's fantastic. Of course, I haven't been canceled yet, so maybe that's has something to do with it. But, and I don't expect it to be a United airline, but is there any possibility of just sending out a notification when something gets canceled as early as you guys know it? I know you're automated to a great extent.
Yeah, sir. So that would be the service alerts that I mentioned just here. So you can kind of see where you can sign up for those service alerts, and you can receive it. It is something that you have to sign up for, and that is kind of the one rub with this, that somebody who has not signed up for these service alerts, getting them through their text messages or via Twitter. Those are the primary. I guess it's not called Twitter anymore, but that the passenger has to sign up for those alerts in order to receive them. But you can do that right here on this website. So, and in fact, I could even kind of show.
So that would be for every trip, or is it a permanent thing?
Nope, not for any trip. So you're just basically signing up for, can you see this as I'm scrolling through the website?
Okay, great.
Yeah, so, and this is where you'd go and you'd sign up here. And then you'll be getting those service alerts. But again, not every passenger knows to sign up for those, and that's something where we're trying to do our best to make onboard announcements. As a frequent rider, hopefully you saw that this notification that was posted on board routes to let passengers know that we were going to be suspending those trips for southbound and northbound. So we were doing our best to kind of get that information out there in as many different ways we could.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming tonight, Paul. Appreciate it. It was my husband was the one who was impacted by the cancellation, and I will get him to sign up for the alerts. But as of Tuesday, he's out of a job, so he's
oh my,
his company got bought out. It's okay for now. But I'm wondering if there's any thoughts about having routes start from the north. Is that something that Bustang has looked into?
How do you mean? So you can kind of see here the schedule. So starting from Fort Collins at 5:10 and then ending at DUS. Am I not understanding your question correctly?
I'm sorry. Do you have drivers that live up here and
start the route here?
Yeah.
versus like.
Thank you.
Yes,
Right.
where is the, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay. You know, that's something I'm gonna need to look into with the contractor. It's a fair question. I think, yeah, I think that's something that I would probably want to look into with the contractor in terms of, you know, where are they specifically starting their operators from? Maybe that is contributing to some of the operators not being available. So
And I do think like the higher
I don't have
salary,
a answer for you though.
I
I'm
was just
sorry?
thinking maybe the higher salary might be more significant for drivers coming out of this region than down in Denver too.
Yeah, right. Okay. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilor Malo says you can steal the drivers from the City of Loveland Transit. Take all you want.
We got our own problem.
Really? That's quite a kind gesture. I appreciate that.
Any additional questions for Paul, please?
Here is something in the chat.
Something in the chat.
Yeah, also it says are there posters or QR codes that can be posted at the Downtown Transit Center in Fort Collins, Harmony Transfer Center, and the new mobility hub with this information?
With the schedule change information, is that the information?
Like, or how to sign up for the service alerts or any and all that information. I guess that's the overarching question. Is there some way to get this information out?
Yes. So this information should have been posted at all of these transfer facilities here that are listed on the time points. And as far as the QR codes, I think it's a really good question. We've actually talked about posting QR codes both at stations and on board to get more frequent rider feedback. That's something that I think as an industry in the transit industry, we could do a better job of, you know, getting our common riders feedback and potentially helping to address things sooner than, you know, a few weeks after they're happening. So that's something that we're working on now, and just kind of making sure that we're getting the information out as in many ways as possible.
Additional questions for Paul, please? Paul, thank you for your time. Appreciate you being online with us.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, on to action items. Number 16 is the CDOT boundary letter of support. Suzette, please.
Yes. And for those of you that attended the staff meeting this morning, I'm sorry, I'm going to do a little bit of a repeat. So for those of you that weren't there, our letter that is the draft letter that's in your packet, the recommendations on the House Bill 1101, the different changes. So it's boundary changes, it's staff representation, it's also looking at some administrative changes. All of these together, there was a presentation at STAC this morning. STAC did vote on 4 different areas. And I thought, in light of the letter that I had drafted in your packet, I thought I would walk through sort of what STAC talked about today, what they voted on, and then see if you want to make any changes to the letter. Or to the I should say not the letter, to the resolution. So the first thing is, they came up with 4 different areas. So the recommendation, these are for CDOT improvements that they were recommending. So the first one was an improved TPR related website to better enable the public to find information about all TPRs in the state. The clarification on that is that at one point CDOT hosted all of the TPR websites. That is not the case anymore. They are now asking all the TPRs to host individual websites and that CDOT would link to them. So that's a point of clarification that they made there. They also, the increased outreach to the elected officials and organized annual and biannual meetings for the TPR administrators. Everybody was good with that. The last point is that the rural TPRs, that they get funding typically to attend the STAC meetings. They have to drive in from across the state. That money has been underutilized or not utilized at all. It's because it's probably not big enough. One of the conversations that came out today was they think that the chair and the vice chair of the stack should get more money because they are expected to attend the Transportation Commission meetings and other meetings that the rest of the stack does not. So that was one change. If you go to the next slide, please. Oh, that one did not turn.
But we can.
So that was CDOT recommendations. This next one is recommendations for the stack and the track. So this one was talking about that first bullet is establish term limits for stack chairs and vice chairs up to 2 terms of 2 years each. So there was an amendment to this proposed that this go to 3 consecutive terms instead of 2. There was a split on the stack about supporting that. I think it was pretty much almost 50-50 about whether to support the 2 or the 3. So that vote, but everything else on here, I think most, like I said, I think it was interesting how the vote came out, but it was split about to have that 2 and 3. I think more rural was more interested in the 3, more urban was more interested in the 2, just because they don't have as long of terms for elected officials. So that was how it split out. Everything else on the rotate the chairs and the vice chairs so that it's more like the Transportation Commission, where one is rural and one is urban. Urban meaning an NPO, so that's 5. So NPOs are going to do a lot of double duty, triple duty maybe. On this one. So, and then the other one is add the chair of the Transit and Rail Committee 2 as a non-voting member to stack. So those were recommendations. That was voted on by stack this morning as well. Like I said, that vote on the terms were pretty much split. Go ahead, next slide. So then the recommendations for the TPR governance. This one, I think, there was not a lot of clarification or a lot of comments. They only asked on C really what is ability to terminate and amend mean, and that they were referring to the IGA or the bylaws that made the TPRs. There was some consternation on B about the ability to sue or be sued. Apparently that has been in their IGA since the early 90s, and that is part of the rules, if you will, of being a TPR. So this one, I don't think there was any much comment on. And then the last one, this was the boundary discussion. The way the legislation is written is that the statute has to say that they had to retain the 10 rural TPRs and the 5 MPOs. The only way that it could change in numbers if there was a new MPO that came into the state. So that would increase the number of MPOs. But they had to retain the 10 rural TPRs. And so if they split one, that meant they had to combine one. So the recommendation that have been proposed is to combine the southeast TPR, which is La Junta area, if you can think about sort of down that area, and then the south central, which is the area south, the I-25 corridor south of Pueblo. Those are 2 very small population-wise areas, but pretty large geographically. So they were talking about combining those 2 and then dividing the Intermountain TPR, and that has, several of the mountain communities that are in that Intermountain. The vote at stack today was to not do any changes on any of the boundaries.
Yeah, that's unanimously. Yeah.
There was no arguments on stack.
Yeah. So my question then is to all of you, what I put in the resolution was to say the changes to the North Front Range to state a preference for the Transportation Commission rule that relevant TPR governing documents do not allow a single political jurisdiction to represent 2 TPRs on stack. The NFRMPO will amend its Articles of Association so that NFRMPO and Upper Front Range TPR do not have representation from the same political jurisdiction on stack. So that could happen. Weld County is our current example, but it could also happen for Larimer County. But we're also not the only place in the state that this could potentially happen.
Can I clarify too? Let's say if Weld County is the chair on the Upper Front Range, Greeley could still be the chair on this one. It's an organization. It's not the
political
county
jurisdiction. The consternation is Ross and I are both from Weld, and somehow that was deemed unfair.
And then we just said no political, we also said we're happy with no boundary modifications that are recommended for us. The one thing I did put in here is the North Front Range Council does not offer an opinion on the discussed boundary modifications for South Central, Southeast TPR, or Intermountain. At the time, I was just thinking that that's really not in our wheelhouse because it is geographically separate from us. But based on the conversation that I just went through with STAC, do you think it's appropriate that we support STAC recommendations, or do you want to just leave the resolution as is?
Go ahead. I'll just spitball and then you can hop in, John. As your STAC representative, obviously I attended today, and for your information, I abstained from voting actually on these because I represent this council, and this council had not formally taken a position yet, so I abstained from voting. I do have to say I agree though with where STAC wound up, in the fact that I am fine with all the presentations on those first 3 points, and that all went through STAC just fine. STAC unanimously voted against this boundary change, and I think with good reason, especially when you take a look at the strain it's got to put on the two south central TPRs. And one is predicated on the other because you can only have a total of 15 TPR representatives on staff. And so I am of the opinion, and Johnny, you can hop in here in a second, that we should amend this resolution simply to, in the now therefore be resolved part, the North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council hereby supports structural and procedural recommendations as approved by the statewide Transportation Advisory Committee on today's date, on November 2nd, 2022. And I would strike that second paragraph, would be my thought.
The offer an opinion one?
Yeah, because we will be offering opinions because we'll be supporting of that which STAC did. So that's my thought anyway.
That's what I was gonna say. Don't have to talk.
You'll be ready to make your motion.
You gotta amend the motion. Well, we've gotta have a conversation.
Hello.
Let's converse.
Yeah, any other thoughts?
Well, sounds like I'm making a motion.
All right, you have made the motion to amend the resolution.
I move to amend resolution 20, wait.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I know, I got you covered. Make your motion.
Resolution number 2023-19 as presented, to amend it to striking the second paragraph under now therefore be it resolved, and adding that the North Front Range Planning Council supports the STAC's recommendations.
Okay. A second. Discussion, please.
Just why did they want to split it? I never heard the reason for it.
I don't think that reason was clearly enunciated, and Herman ran away from here.
I think it was to some degree in terms of the way that they talked about. God, I'm trying to remember. That was a long time ago. That was like
this
7
morning.
hours, 8 hours ago, 12 hours ago. But they talked about that there's similarities in terms of transportation networks and systems, and how the two down south should be together because of the similarities in their transportation network, the way they operate, and some of the other facets of their
I guess
rural
area. Who was driving this and what was their motivation?
So CDOT was driving this because it was up to CDOT to do this analysis. They did have some requirements that was set out in the law that said we want a House Bill 1101 that says you need to look at these variables as you're assessing which boundaries to change or not change. So some of the things, the reason I think they landed on the Intermountain is that when you look at Intermountain, they have a lot of truck traffic, they have a lot of VMT, they have a lot of volume because of all the ski areas up there. And so there was like jumping right up there as a pretty high contributor to, are you looking at that? As a pretty high contributor to a lot of the traffic volume and things like that. So that, and they also were saying there's sort of a little bit of a political difference between sort of the east and the west side of Intermountain. But, ultimately, Intermountain said, we'll do it if we have to, but we don't really want to do it.
Okay, I mean, I just was curious the
Yeah.
underlying reason for this whole discussion, so.
Well, and behind the scenes, I think Summit County wanted a little bit more of their pie in their own TPR too.
But
The
you-
money that came to them, yeah.
You look at the strait, I mean, you look at geographically the size of South Central and Southeast. Now, there's more population, I believe, in this room than in the South Central and Southeast. I mean, it's not a very populated area, but there are multiple small municipalities. And their point was to try to get everybody together, even in just Southeast and South Central standalones is difficult. To merge those two geographically would make a very big old chunk, bigger than a couple of states.
Well, that's where
Well,
Eastern
it's
is.
at Eastern.
Yeah.
Eastern or Northwest, but I'm fine with this.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is number 17, October 2023 off-cycle tip amendment, resolution 2023-20, which is on page 19 of your packet. Anna Roach, please.
Thank you. The October 2023 off-cycle tip amendment includes one revision from to add the North Front Range MPO new project, Weld County 60-plus ride vehicle purchase with 50,000 FTA 5310 funds and 12,000 local funding in fiscal year 2024. The 30-day public comment period for the October off-cycle tip amendment began on October 3rd and concluded at the end of the business day today, and there were no comments received during that public comment opportunity. The TAC at their meeting in October recommended Planning Council approval of the off-cycle tip amendment. So, yes, answer any questions.
Questions for Anna Rose, please. You are so thorough.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Please.
To approve resolution number 2023-20 of the North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council approving the October 2023 off-cycle amendment to the 2023-20 TICS Transportation Improvement Program.
Second. Motion by Councilor Olson, second by Councilor O'Malley to approve resolution number 2023-20. Further discussion, please. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Troy.
Oh, Troy, I'm sorry, please.
Oh, I had just a simple question. I'm assuming this is a purchase of a vehicle for the county to do something with a program. Would that be right, Mr. Chair?
Yes, it is. It is the purchase of a vehicle for the 60-plus ride program within Weld County.
And how many vehicles are in this program currently?
That I do not know.
There's zero currently, but this is, and Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong, you've been working on this, but this is simply CDOT dragged its feet on getting, was it the MMOF contract out, or what contract was being delayed? Or I'm off?
Do you want me to say? Go ahead.
Go ahead.
It's a $5310.
The 53, okay.
Yeah, and so what happened is that there was a previous human services provider that was awarded the vehicle, then they closed.
That's right.
And so the money was repurposed to 60-plus ride. Then there was a lot of turnover at DTR and a lot of silence from DTR for a while until, just recently. We're now waiting on the vehicle there. It's sitting on a lot, waiting to go. And they were saying that we should pretty much get that contract by the end of this month. I haven't seen it yet, so we're going to ping them again and just see where we're at in the queue.
So bottom line, Mayor, by a comedy of errors, we've had to kick the funding down the road, and we're finally ready to buy the vehicle, but we just had to go through the proper amendments to make sure we get the proper funding. Yeah.
Well, I guess, and I'm not opposed to it, but what I'm concerned about is having, Scott, is two competing programs in the county right now, VIA and this, and I don't think one's going to overwhelm the other, but I guess what's our focus going to be in the long term?
I would phone a friend, and that friend is Elizabeth Rover, please.
So Mayor, if you go into the Ride NoCo website, you'll see right now that there's only one provider in our region that can do ADA accessible, and that's Via Mobility. This one van will add one more option for all of Weld County to be able to offer an ADA accessible door-to-door program. So with the need and the amount of aging population in our region, it's still based on the numbers that we just got today from Via Mobility. We don't have enough. We can't serve enough. There just aren't enough vehicles. There aren't enough programs. I mean, they're like telling like 350, seniors no right now.
Bottom line, it's not overly competitive, but dramatically underserved still. So yeah, we need this capacity.
Weld County provided match dollars for this van.
No, and like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I'm just trying to get a handle on long term. This looks like to be a stopgap because of a need currently, but we need somehow to figure out what our long term solution is for handicap mobility. And I don't think necessarily having two different providers is as efficient, and that's just my comment.
In addition, for the North Front Range, you may recall, we only had LaSalle and Johnstown sign up for the VIA program.
Yeah.
For Weld County, then this would offer the ability for all the other communities in Weld County outside of Greeley and Longmont and Brighton to have utilized this vehicle.
Okay, and that's also a fair comment. I'm just looking for efficiency, I guess, and maybe I'm trying to be too efficient.
Further discussion, please.
He's just getting closer to 65 and he's starting to get worried.
No, what he's doing is the mayor knows how annoyed I get when I get behind on my agenda, and I think he's just doing this just additional discussion. But all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, number 18 is FY 2023 tip delay review, which is resolution number 2023-21. It's on page 22 of your packet.
Thank you.
Please, Amber.
The FY 2023 tip delay review was presented to the Planning Council last month, and as a review, there were 24 projects that were subject to the tip delay review. 3 projects have been delayed for a second time and are requesting a second one-year approval for an extension, and there were 14 projects which were delayed for a first time, which were requesting a first one-year extension. At their meeting on October 18th, the TAC approved the 14 one-year extensions for the projects experiencing the first delay. And tonight we are asking, and also TAC recommended approval of the second delay by the Planning Council. So we are asking the Planning Council to approve the 3 second one-year extensions.
Questions for Anna Rose, please. Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Please.
I'd like to make a motion.
You're one step ahead of me. I can't find it. You go.
I have it right in front of me.
There it is. Okay, I got
it. I'd like to approve the resolution number 2023-21 of the North Front Range Transportation and Quality Planning Council approving 3 one-year extensions for the 2023 TIP project delay review. Do I have to amend that? With this 2-year, we have a, nope, I don't. That's all.
Okay.
Motion by Councilor Olson, second by Councilor Canonico to approve resolution 2023-21. Further discussion? Seeing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, thanks, Anna Rose. Number, do you have one more? No, okay. We're just mingling about the podium and you're making me nervous. Councilor reports. Transportation Commission. Commissioner Kelly, welcome to your first, is this your first North Front Range MPO meeting? Okay,
Oh, yeah.
good to have you. Hello.
I've had a lot of firsts in the last couple of weeks. So I had my first commissioner meeting 2 weeks ago, was just sworn in. And I wanted to give a shout out first off, I didn't get a chance before, to Kathleen Brackey. She has, this job has got a lot of information behind it, and she's been super helpful. At a drop of a hat, she'll answer the phone, and we've had a couple of meetings. She's been great. So has quite a few people, Heather, Suzette, Elizabeth. They've all been really helpful trying to get me up to speed as quickly as possible. We did have our meeting just a couple of weeks ago, and there are a few interesting things that came out of it. There's a 1601 exchange that is being proposed down at Crystal Valley, just south of Castle Rock. And that's going to present some really interesting challenges with the reduction of traffic that is built into the 1601. So that's yet to be determined if everybody's going to vote for that or what. And I'm getting advice from as many folks as possible. That's a 3% reduction in the average daily traffic that is supposed to happen if you put in a new exchange of any size. We allocated $5 million to a rail study for taking rail from Union Station all the way to Craig. There's a real need there in some depressed communities where coal is no longer on the lines, and they're looking at using rail to, stimulate things. And there's a lot going on in rail, I think, that you're going to hear in the next few months because of the Fed allocating really up to $9 billion in rail, and a question of, is Colorado going to be able to glom onto that money, or is it going to go to Texas and other places and leave us without any passenger rail? So anyway, that's my report for now, and I'll look forward to seeing you next month and have more that we're voting on. Oh, we're also closed out of one budget, adjusting the present budget and developing the next budget all at one time. So it's quite a bit of information. But any questions for me that you could challenge me with that I may have to ask Heather, Suzette, Elizabeth, or somebody else on?
Phone a friend is completely valid, Commissioner.
Commissioner Kelly, I'll just be surprised if by the next meeting you have all the three-letter acronyms down.
There will be a quiz.
Right here, babe. I don't go anywhere without this at this point. There's additions to the 4 pages that Jamie Grimm gave me.
Very good. Additional questions for Commissioner Kelly, please. Thanks, Jim. Good to have you here.
All right, thanks. Good to be here.
CDOT Region 4 update is the lovely Josie Thomas. Josie, please.
Yes, hi, good evening, everyone. I'm covering Heather's update tonight, and I'm really excited about it because we have a lot of cool stuff happening in CDOT Region 4 right now. First one I'll hit on, we have the US 34 Railroad Grade Separation Study, and that is in its preliminary stages. So we are working with the FRA, which is another acronym, Commissioner Kelly, for the Federal Railroad Authority. And that is, you knew that one? Good. And that we're going to be establishing a scope of work, which will be followed by CDOT entering into an agreement with the FRA, and that will finally allow us to get that grant funding directly to CDOT. So currently we are considered to be in the pre-scoping phase, and I have been told this is a slow process. So this preliminary piece of the process is expected to take up to a year, after which we will have an agreement with the FRA, and that will allow us to begin the study. So when we get more updates on that, which will probably take some time, we'll keep you posted. Related to studies, we have another one kicking off here soon. This one I'm very excited about. It's the Highway 14 safety study. This one is going to start all the way from Larimer County Road 5, which is just east of I-25 by the McDonald's area on 14, and go all the way up to County Road 43, so just a couple miles past 85. This corridor, we have seen an increase in accidents and fatalities over the past year or two that have been pretty concerning. And so this safety study is going to help us kind of determine what actions we can take to make it a safer corridor as we get funding. Another one, some very exciting news that I know everyone on this call will be excited about, is we are done with our stretch of resurfacing for 257, all the way from 392 to 34. It's fantastic. If you haven't driven on it, please, we'll do, I guess, or don't, so that we can keep it nice and minimize the wear and tear. That's also fine too. And then related to everybody's favorite topic, I-25, exciting stuff here. We have a ribbon cutting for segments 6, 7, and 8, and that will be on December 5th at 11 a.m. at the Centera Loveland Mobility Hub. And we just would really hope for you all to be there. An official invite will be coming, but that's just your little save the date plug for now. And then last week we had our Region 4 TPR chair, stack rep, and transportation commissioners quarterly meeting. We hold that one every few months. And this was such an exciting meeting for us, as well as the group, because we got to have some face-to-face time with our newly appointed transportation commissioners, including Commissioner Kelly, of course. We went over a lot of great material. It included an introduction to the statewide planning process from our headquarters lead, Marissa Gahan, as well as the NPOs, North Range and Dr. Cog. They presented on their planning processes, and we kind of illustrated how those processes all come together for a statewide plan. We also went over calendar year 2024 projects and what's to come across the region here in 2024, and went over the Region 4's RPP funding and how that gets allocated. So I do see, I think, a question from Troy.
Troy has an hand.
Troy,
Yeah,
please.
I was curious about the FRA study. You're talking Highway 34 rail crossings?
Yes, yep, that's correct.
I'm trying to count the number of rail crossings, and how far east does it go? How does this study go?
I'm not sure on that, Troy. I can get you that information. I have to get with my project manager, Chad Hall, on the specifics.
Josie, this is Heather. It's from
great.
Weld County Road 3 to Weld County Road 13. So it's those two right there.
Weld County.
Sorry, Larimer County Road 3 to Weld County Road 13, I think.
Okay, so it's those two.
Yes.
That I'm thinking about.
Yep.
They're both in Johnstown. I mean,
they're in Johnstown.
Amazing how that works, isn't it? Well, I guess, I mean, the reason I'm asking is, of course, we're looking at kind of doglegging Larimer County Road 3 to the east, and how does that meld into a potential? I'm sure you wouldn't raise the track; you would raise the road or lower the road or something, right?
Right now, that is what we're that's one of the things we're evaluating. The PEL identified the road going over the railroad track. That is probably the easiest solution. That may not be the solution that works, and that's what we want to evaluate. But I think your approach currently with your developer, I know the team is working closely with them. That is still the best solution that we have for that location.
Yeah, I can tell you, Troy, that intersection was moved farther to the east a little bit to ensure that it met the needs of that railroad meeting the PEL.
Right, I know that. I'm just trying to figure out then, if we grade separate 34 in the railroad, how does that look? But that's what the study will tell us.
Yes.
Yes.
Josie or Heather, anything additional?
No, sir, that was it. Thank you.
Questions for the CDOT team? Okay, thank you, Josie and Heather. On to the stack report. It is written in your packet. Colorado Transportation Investment Office is written in your packet. I-25 Coalition. I'll be brief. We met last night. I am just, we heard the typical reports and we get to see the vision of I-25. I just continue to be very energized by that particular coalition. I think one of our longest standing, perhaps most impactful. It's regularly attended by 2, if not 3, of our congressional representatives, and really good attendance now by the folks down on the south end of the corridor. Starting to see the folks from Adams County, Thornton, Broomfield become involved, because as we knock out 6, 7, and 8 are moving into 5, there's starting to be some energy between segments 2, 3, and 4 now. So it's good to continue to be plugged into the I-25 coalition. It just goes to show what we can do, and we speak with a common voice, which is what my hope for eventually will be for Highway 34 as well. Okay, that's I-25 coalition. NAPME, I believe that both Commissioner Stevens and Mayor Karspeck are involved in the same, is it an emergency exercise, like a disaster exercise they were having this
I
evening?
think that's what it is.
Is that what it is? Tricia, yeah.
You got out of it?
It's emergency training that, we had to split the difference, and my town manager is now covering in case of my emergencies.
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm assuming that Commissioner Stevens will just catch us up next month. And on the Front Range Passenger Rail District, Johnny, please.
So we had our meeting last Friday, really working on how we're gonna get to a 24 ballot initiative. SDP is working, there should be some meetings that came out. I don't know, Suzette, if everybody, did you get them?
I haven't seen
I got them. There's one in Longmont, I think, and one in Loveland. So I'll send that email out. I got it. It's not in my area, but it's for the Northern Colorado folks. So I'll get that out to everybody tomorrow. I'll send it to Suzette to get out. SDP's coming along. There was a lot of discussion. The south end, Trinidad, Southwest Chief is not involved in the SDP, and they're starting to figure out how they can get that stretch into the SDP. But in order to meet at 2024, have everything submitted in June of 2024, you have to sort of cut some stuff right off the bat. So, we did some resolutions to give the marching orders to the executive director and staff on what our expectations were. Don't know why we did a resolution, but we did. And then we had a retreat after that for 2 hours to talk about priorities, goals, and what needs to get done so we can set it up. So it's moving along. They're looking at hiring staff. We did approve the budget. The approval of the budget did allow them to hire 2 new people for the thing, and then also bring on consultants to help them do it. Because 2 people cannot run a $14 billion plan. So that's where we are.
Okay.
Just as a reminder, we've asked them to come back next month and to do a presentation, so.
In the minutes, I'll send them out once I get them to everybody, and Suzette can forward them if you want to read an exciting another transportation thing.
Johnny, did they discuss a final routing on the north side?
That'll be part of the SDP, Troy, when they get out and do all the public meetings and everything.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure I can tell you where it's going without being predetermined.
I'll bet you $1 right now.
Nope.
Okay. Any questions for Johnny, please? Host council member report. Councilor Model, please.
Thank you. I know we're running late. I will not keep everyone, but I want to thank Mark Jackson. This is his building. Nicole Hahn, she's the brains of the operation. There's a lady by the name of Roe who's not here. She actually does all the work. So that's the people that get involved. I'll run through this pretty quick and skip through some things, but we talked about I-25. That party on December 5th is in segment 7, so we'll all be joyful to be there. Northern Colorado Regional Airport, that's kind of been a saga, a long saga, but a lot of pieces to the puzzle. Most recently, a positive piece of the puzzle is the new terminal that was started construction this past summer. It's a $22 million, mostly federally funded terminal building. $2 million came from airport reserves, and Loveland and Fort Collins each contributed $1 million. Thank you, Fort Collins. Economic impact, was she happy about that or not? Economic impact will be $300 million with support for more than 1,000 jobs. Of course, that's if we attract a commercial carrier back to the airport. And we also have some issues with our aging hangar structures that Nicole stepped in, and they're not done yet, but we started the demo on it, right? So we'll fix that up. Bad news, bad piece of the puzzle was a remote tower developer that pulled out. Basically, there was two purveyors of these remote towers. If you just envision a bunch of cameras and TVs and very, very current stuff. So they pulled out, just so everybody knows, CDOT's involved in that through their aeronautics division. They've been very supportive. The issue has been with the FAA and their rising of the bar and what needs to be done. But there are a couple other people that do this kind of thing, and we hope to track that. We're also going to, in order to get a commercial airline back, we're going to do a widening of the runway. We're just in initially public meetings, a lot to go on that. And that's paid for by the FAA as well. So that's good. Hip Street construction, that's our, for those of you not here, you probably know about 4th Street. That's our main downtown artery. We figured, we did an underground study back in 2019, and we were quite surprised what we found underneath there. So a lot of utilities need to be upgraded. We're going to expand that from 4th to maybe 5th and 6th and Railroad Avenue. So we're trying to figure out exactly what we're going to do and how big involved it's going to be. But while we're fixing the underneath, we're also going to fix some things up above and rearrange some things and make it look nice and pretty. And that will start in 2024 with funding to be determined. Widening of Highway 34, that's basically widening 34 west between Denver Avenue and Boyd Lake Avenue. That's in East Loveland, if you're not familiar with it. And there'll be 2 phases to that with completion in September. That'll be great. North Taft Avenue widening project. Taft Avenue is one of the 3 main north-south arteries between us and Fort Collins. It's been a long time coming, but we finally purchased all the buildings we need to do, and demo started on that, and construction will begin in spring, right? So, master transportation plan, that is Mark's great masterpiece that he's been working on for quite some time. It's what we've done, which I think was brilliant, was to combine 4 different projects, plans, transportation plan, transit plan, bicycle plan, pedestrian plan. We just connected them all into one document to make it look like, well, it actually is a multimodal system plan. So we're proud of that. Lots of nice, pretty pictures for the counselors, and a lot of great detail too for everybody else. So big US 34 event coming this fall. Mark added this to my list here. City staff, in conjunction with CDOT, are preparing traffic management plans for a big event coming soon. Anticipate the opening of a very popular restaurant chain to cause travel challenges in the area of East Loveland 34. I'm not supposed to mention the name, and I can't tell you any more as.
But you're saying is people have difficulty getting in and out of the location.
Oh, no.
I was just asking.
There goes that secret. Also, we're very proud to say the Colt Transit Center's moving along. It's basically going to be a very nice parking area for the buses. Eventually, we'll hope to get a building, but that'll be our north transit center, and it'll also serve as a regional connection point for Flex. So, looking forward to that as well. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Loveland, for hosting. Okay, folks, any suggestions for next week or next month's agenda? Please get those to Suzette or myself. We will meet in the town of Eaton. Okay, Liz, what are we having for dinner?
Probably McCarty's.
McCarty, yeah, that's a fine choice. We will see you in Eaton on December 7th, the date that you're living in. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you.
So hang out next to Chick-fil-A, like, just in case the lines weren't long.
Right.